Check, check. We're chilling here with FSP. Welcome back, everybody. Here we are, FSPN, Faith, Family, and Football. We are live at Radio Row here in New Orleans. My name is Tyler Corbo. We're here with
Aiden Poyer.
And we're two students on this amazing experience. And today, we're just here to really talk about our experience here, the people we have interacted with, the celebrities and NFL players that we've been able to speak to, just the general atmosphere the media as well that we got to talk to. We're going to show you guys some highlights from opening night, also from hotel interviews. We'll show you guys highlights, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. Coming up here in about an hour, we should have an interview with Rodrigo Blankenship, the former Colts kicker, and that'll be super exciting. He seems like a really cool guy. He'll have a lot of fun things to say. Yeah, Aiden, would you like to start us off? I guess we can just start here talking about our experience.
Yeah. So I think it's only appropriate to start with the opening night experience, which was Monday, the first day that we got here. So how they do it is you basically start with right away with the most stressful experience, which is going onto the actual field itself that the Super Bowl's being played on. We showed up. Do you remember what time we showed up? I think it was like 5 o'clock at the gates, waited in line in order to get in as early as we could, so that way we could have a prime spot for the quarterback boost. So we showed up there, waiting to go through security, and then walking out onto the actual field eventually after all of that, which was a pretty crazy experience. I don't know how that felt for you, but football stadiums are pretty big from down on the field. I don't know. Have you ever been on a football field before?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a little experience on football fields. Folsom Field, for sure, is one of the best ones that I've been on field. I honestly don't know the capacity of that field. But before going into the Caesars Superdome, I looked at the capacity, and I believe it was around 73,190, I think, roughly. So that's crazy. I mean, when we walked in, I was looking way up, and I was like, there's seats up there? Like, it's just crazy. The structure, the architecture of the building is just massive. Like, it is just like a globe. Like, it reminds me of the Sphere a little bit in Vegas. Just kind of the shape of it, the way the lights are kind of shining, around it. And we even noticed too, last night when we were out, where we were staying in our Airbnb, you could look straight up and you could see all the lights shining up in the air. We were like, are those UFOs? It's like, no, that's not UFOs. That's just Caesars Superdome. So like you could see that from miles and miles away. So it's just really cool when you're coming into the city. And that's one of, the first and top things that you see.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to mention, as we walked in, there was actually fans in the stands for this, which was a little surprising for a media event. Probably, I'd say, a third of the stadium was filled. So how the stadium works, there's basically 3 tiers, one at the bottom, mid-tier, and a high tier. And basically, the full bottom tier was full. And there was fans that were constantly yelling at us. One asked me to get a Patrick Mahomes jersey signed, and I was like, good luck with that. I don't think I'm going to be able to get that for you. But that was a pretty crazy experience. Just overall, walking into the field and just seeing that big of a space just wide open. And then I think setting up more. Okay. And then setting up cameras and everything was a rather stressful experience. One thing to note is that at this experience, there are actually a lot of other colleges here this year. And we're actually joined by somebody from one of them, Syracuse. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. If you could just introduce yourself, how you ended up getting here, and what exactly you guys are aiming to create here.
Yeah, I don't even think I remember getting here. It's just been like a fever dream. I'm Ian Nicholas. I'm a senior, like you said, at Syracuse at the Newhouse School of Public Communications, and got here by working a lot, like having no social life at Syracuse. But luckily, we have a ton of awesome on-campus student media. We have 2 radio stations. WAER is like an NPR station, but the sports department is entirely student run. So I'm the assistant sports director there. Z89 is that's entirely student run station. Used to have a big leadership position there, but that's more of like the underclassmen, like where you grow and you start doing radio broadcasting for the first time. And then WAER is kind of that next level. And then I also work for the student TV station, Citrus TV, where I've worked my way up into being an anchor and host in the sports department. And then I'd say the biggest reason I'm here is my involvement with the Newhouse Sports Media Center, and specifically just working for like ESPN, like the digital side of ESPN for all of like, not like Syracuse football, but like all the Olympic sports at Syracuse that don't end up getting on like national TV, but they end up getting streamed on like the ESPN app. They let students call those games and host coverage like back from the school, the communication school, like in studio work. So just building connections with people on campus, not screwing up anything too royally over the years, and and working hard, I guess, is how I somehow ended up here.
That's really cool. Is this your first Super Bowl that you've been to?
Yes, first as a fan, as a media member, first in general.
Do you follow football usually, or is this mostly just a media experience for you?
Oh no, this is my dream. Since I've been at Syracuse and I've had to cover a bunch of different sports over the years, I'm not just a football fan, but the reason I became a sports fan at all was football. Like Madden, I remember going to a birthday party and there was a game truck, and it was like a truck in somebody's front yard with a flatbed, and the flatbed was TVs and consoles, and somebody pulled up Madden, and I'm like, what's this? And I loved it. And after that, I wanted to start playing, and I did. I was an awful player, but I kept playing Madden, like we all are if we end up here. But I ended up, just loving Madden. And as an only child, I just found myself in my basement almost every night throughout middle school playing Madden and talking to myself. And I didn't even realize it until I started broadcasting in high school for my local, not local TV station, but the high school TV station. I was commentating to myself that whole time while playing Madden. And then I did that with NBA 2K. And then once I found out my high school had a sports broadcasting elective, then I was like, that would be perfect for me. That's literally what I end up doing in my basement in the wee hours of the night in middle school. And it finally ended up working in high school. Then when I really got passionate about it, found out about Syracuse, and that's how I kind of got to where I'm at.
That's a really cool story as to how you got here.
Yeah, I mean, the question we're all asking here as football fans is, who are you rooting for in this game?
Well, I'm a Giants fan. I guess I think I didn't answer that part of your question. I love football. That's why. I've watched some awful Giants teams. I started rooting for the Giants in 2013. The worst year possible. They have been only bad since. But I guess if I have to pull for anybody, it would be Philadelphia, because although I want to dislike Saquon Barkley because the whole fan base seems to dislike him, even though the Giants probably could have easily had him back and just didn't really want to pay him, I am rooting for him. And I think, as good as a three-peat could be, and it would be obviously the first time in league history, I just really would like to see this Philadelphia team, they're the better team, finally kind of halt the Chiefs' momentum. And even though I think the Chiefs are still going to be a great team for years to come because they got, number 15, it would be nice if somebody knocked the Chiefs off the pedestal a little bit. Maybe that could open things up in the AFC, which, has the Bengals and the Broncos and the Bills and the Ravens, and maybe they get to a Super Bowl one of these years.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. So kind of going back to the experience stuff that you've been talking about, first time being at the Super Bowl, what so far has been your favorite moment here? Maybe favorite question that you asked, favorite response, that kind of thing.
That's great. That's a good question. I don't know, because somebody texted me back in Syracuse earlier in the day and was just curious about how it was all going, and I didn't really have a great answer for them either. I guess meeting some of the former Giants players that I ended up, rooting for growing up, like Justin Pugh, who no offense to Justin Pugh, he's not the biggest name here or anything, but he's a really good guy. And we got him for 7 or 8 minutes at our table, and he played at Syracuse too, so that's another reason why we talked to him. And that's one of the players that when I think of my early fandom and I think about why I became passionate about sports broadcasting, it was watching the Giants every Sunday, commentating the game as I was watching it, and seeing him as one of the best players on that team. But when Lawrence Taylor walked in earlier today, that's Lawrence Taylor. That's one of the best football players of all time, period. And he is in front of my eyes. So we've talked to a lot of great Syracuse alums too. I think those were my favorite interviews because Syracuse, I guess, it has a good reputation of being a strong broadcasting program, and there's a lot of pros here who are over there at Sirius or on the TV side of things, and those interviews have probably been the best because they feel the most comfortable with us and they really want to see us succeed, so they're giving us really good answers. Talking to Donovan McNabb too, former Syracuse quarterback, that guy is just a hoot. He's funny. He does not have to be as kind as he is, but he's a really good guy. He's super relatable. So connecting with Syracuse people, whether they're former athletes or now broadcasters who have made it to the level that I hope to make it someday, that's awesome.
So, yeah, expanding on that last thing, what's your dream job? You talked about sports reporting a little bit, but what would be your ideal team to work with, or, what is that for you?
I would say I'll probably start. I mean, I got to really hit the applications a little harder. I'm a senior. But I'll probably start on the local TV sports side of things. Even the last few days, one of the big things that we're doing is feature reporting. And that's something that it's difficult. There's a lot of things that go into that, but it's really cool to tell stories about cool people or places. And I think I'll start on the local TV side of things and, work in studio and work out in the field reporting, like you said, and do that feature stuff. But my end goal is play-by-play. I love it. I mean, I've done it since high school, covering every sport that we had at our high school. And luckily we had some good teams, so that made it a little easier. It's just, a lot of guys who want to go into play-by-play usually start in baseball. And I've done baseball internships the last few years, but I didn't really grow up playing baseball or watching it. I've just kind of gotten into it knowing that it would probably be a decent idea to get into baseball if I wanted to do this at all. Yeah. So considering I don't want to go the minor league baseball route for a job right out of school, it will be interesting to see if I can work my way back into a play-by-play job full-time down the line. Yeah. So, the dream job would be like calling Sunday Night Football, because I love football. It's a sport I feel most comfortable with. I love Mike Tirico. He's going to have that job for as long as he wants, Syracuse alum. But that would be the pinnacle. There would be nothing better. I kind of joke with my friends because they don't really understand like half the stuff I do. If you tune on any game, football, basketball, lacrosse, baseball on TV on any given day, and I'm calling it, I would consider that a total win.
What's been your favorite, or what's like a takeaway from Super Bowl so far, or something important that you've learned that you're now going to take in the future?
For the Super Bowl itself, I would say we had the chance to catch up with a guy named Tim Schlichter, who's the NFL's director of communications and another Syracuse alum. That's why we got him. And he said like the planning for just the communication side of things happens like 2 years in advance. And, obviously a lot of different things will happen in 2 years that are going to change some of those plans, but you always know how big of an operation a Super Bowl is and how many different people are involved to make this thing tick. But that was probably one of the most interesting things I've learned. Also, I've clearly found out how many times the game has been here in New Orleans. I feel like I've heard it's the 11th time the Super Bowl has been in New Orleans, like 11 different times. So I've heard that a lot. This city's got an unbelievably deep culture in football culture. So I've learned a lot more about that. And then also just Radio Row. Apparently they used to just let fans go in here and go wild. We were interviewing somebody earlier today, Andrew Siciliano, who does work for NFL Network and is the play-by-play guy for the Cleveland Browns. And he graduated from Syracuse like 30 years ago. And he was telling us that when he first came to Radio Row, it was just an absolute zoo. There were just fans everywhere, and there was like barely any security. And like, it already feels like a zoo now, a calm zoo. But like, if there were fans in here, it would just be it would be anarchy. So just finding out how Radio Row has progressed over the years, that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have anything to add, Aiden?
First of all, I'm sorry you're a Giants fan. It's been a little tough these last few years. Mm-hmm. But I guess just like the one question that I would ask is, you keep mentioning all these Syracuse alumni that were previously in communications there. Is that part of the reason that you chose Syracuse, or is that something that just happened by happenstance?
No, that's 100% part of the reason. And sorry if it's like every other word on my mouth is like, oh, it's just because like I want to make sure I gotta shout them out. But totally, because I didn't do any broadcasting, like who does in middle school or anything like that. But then once I did the TV broadcasting elective and I told my parents like, hey, this is something that I want to do moving forward, they wanted to help me figure out where I should go. And I'm an only child, like I said. My parents are not in broadcasting. They're not even really big sports fans. They're in the hospitality business. They work in hotels. So, but they were the ones, and I figured this out for myself too, just by doing the research online, which is super easy. But they were the ones who were really like, Ian, you see all these names. We even know some of these names that have come out of Syracuse on the broadcasting side of things. This is the Harvard of broadcasting. You got to go. And we're going to do everything in our power to help you get there if you want to go. And I only applied to 2 schools, which is not something I'd recommend for anyone else. But, I graduated high school in 2021. So COVID was the year before. And I didn't have a chance to visit really many schools. I didn't even visit Syracuse before applying. I'd only visited a couple Boston schools in Hofstra on Long Island. So I didn't visit Syracuse beforehand. So I guess I was taking a little bit of a leap of faith. But that alumni base, just knowing that school, that program has a formula, has a secret sauce, has a structure in place that guarantees you some level of stability and success. That was a huge reason why, I committed early decision and ended up going.
That's really cool, and I'm glad it's been working out so well. I'm just going to ask you one final question. I know you're rooting for the Eagles, but who do you think is going to win on Sunday?
I will not bet against the Chiefs. I mean, I'm sure you've heard that a million times. I'm sure you guys have probably said it a million times to yourselves. Like, until the king gets knocked off, and that guy is Patrick Mahomes, I don't know if he's the GOAT yet. I know people are quickly trying to say, oh, how much more does he need to do? Like, yes, he has had the best start to an NFL career ever. There's no doubt about that. But, let's just let greatness be greatness until it's not. I know the Eagles have the better roster, the better defense, the better athletes. But with Mahomes on the field, he is statistically the most clutch quarterback in NFL history. I think everybody is expecting it to be a close game. And if you're asking me, I know you didn't ask me this, but you asked me who's going to win and ball late in the game, Jalen Hurts or Pat Mahomes, it's not even a question. So I'm going to take him and the Chiefs and Andy Reid all day long to make a little history of this weekend.
Well, I personally hope you're not correct, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, man.
It was great meeting you. And have a great rest of your time here.
All right.
The real question is how many pretzels have you eaten from the media workroom?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Well, one last one.
Real question is how many calories have I had on a daily basis? Yeah, that's an absurd number. I have only had, to answer your question, half a pretzel, but a lot more, a lot more food than that, but only half a pretzel, and it was great.
I haven't had a full meal this week yet, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So it's just snacks after snacks.
Yeah. But those add up. Yeah. It's been, we're all kids in the candy store. That's what it is. That's my biggest takeaway. I feel like a little kid here, and it's amazing. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, Best of luck to you guys.
Yep. All right. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah, of course.
It was great meeting you.
Alrighty, so that was Ian from Syracuse, fellow student. So now we will be handing it over to Jess, where we'll be talking to some more people here. So thank you for enjoying that first part, and we're going to hand that off.
And we are back with yet another guest. So if you could just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little about what you do.
Yeah, thanks, guys. My name is Ellen Gustafson, and I am the co-founder and executive director of an organization called We the Veterans and Military Families. We're a veteran and military family organization that promotes investing in America and using the strengths of the military, family, and veteran community to support our country. We are running a campaign this year called Military 250 because it is the 250th anniversary of the Army, Navy, and Marine Corps. And we are encouraging people in this country to celebrate the service through acts of service. So to give back and take action for their own communities as a way to celebrate the military.
What inspired you to go ahead and start this organization?
Well, we were inspired, first of all, to start the organization by looking at some of the problems in our country, including things like the need for more poll workers and the loss of trust in a lot of our institutions, and say, we're a community of people who is already kind of very connected to the government, to democracy, to how our country works and why we're such a great place. And so we launched a campaign a couple of years ago to recruit veterans to help support the elections, to serve as poll workers, and it was super successful. So we recruited 163,000 veterans and military family members across the country to help support their own local elections. We thought, wow, what can we do beyond the elections, right? And of course, with this military anniversary coming up, we thought it was a great time to say, what else can our community do for our country?
What exactly brings you to the Super Bowl through that?
Well, so we've been a partner with the NFL for the last 3 years, and we've worked through NFL Votes, which is their initiative to help support voting in elections. We've become a big partner of them because they're so supportive of the military along with voting, and we're kind of that perfect little mix for them.
That's really cool. And on a more personal standpoint, how has this experience been so far? Have you met any cool people that you've been able to talk to about this?
Yeah, I would say the coolest person that we were able to interview is a guy named Michael Smith, who is an Army veteran, but also a professional athlete. So he is part of this really unique program that has members of the Army that actually are elite athletes. He is an amputee, lost his arm serving in the Army, but that did not stop him from a 24-year. He lost it around a couple of years in, and he still served 24 years in the Army. But he has also been a professional triathlete and a professional skeleton rider, which is like this downhill ice sled luge amazing thing. He's also getting into biking, and he's hoping to go to the Olympics this year. This guy's incredible, and I mean, sure, there's lots of athletes around, but he was definitely the coolest person we talked to.
So military and sports has always seemed like it's kind of had this intersection. I don't know if you've heard of Pat Tillman. He used to play for the Cardinals, and he died in the service. Is there anything that you guys take away from him especially, or use throughout your campaigning with him?
Yeah, so we did a campaign yesterday during Military Appreciation Day at the Super Bowl Experience. We highlighted 6 of the veterans in the military who've also been NFL players, including one now, Joe Cardona, who's a Navy and player. And we think there's a lot of lessons that can be crossovers between the team element of being in the military and of course playing on a team, but also just the commitment. It takes a lot to want to do something like play a game at this elite level. It's a very similar commitment that it takes to be able to serve in the military. But I think, people that have embodied wanting to do for their country is really the number one lesson, right? You don't sign up for the military because you want to get the glory. You do it for a lot of other personal reasons. And we think the best is because you want to actually give back.
Yeah, I just had a question too, thinking, what does your guys' future look like? What goals do you guys have in set?
So over the course of this year, we are going to be encouraging 250 acts of service, and we are hoping to get 250,000 acts of service across the country. So from small to large, that can be donating a coat to a veteran center that needs them, or a homeless shelter, and it can go as far as changing into a career that's more focused on service. So we want to see America, instead of posting about the military on Facebook or just being proud and wearing an American flag pin, actually get out there and do something in their own community. That's really how you show your support for the service.
That's awesome. So here with Athletes in Action, we focus on mind, body, and soul. How are those important to you?
Oh, well, I mean, look, in the military community, obviously, keeping yourself healthy and keeping your mind right and ready to always, do what you do. Especially, I'm a military spouse, and keeping yourself, aware that, look, like, this is a hard life, but we can do it. We can get through it, even the hard times. And I think, the sense of community that we have, especially as a military spouse in our world, is unbelievable. I think one of the coolest things that has been really important to the founding of this organization, but also to my experience in America today, is that I don't live in a media silo. I don't live around one type of American. I don't live around one type of religion, political background, geographic background, race, anything. My people in my community are from everywhere because that's what the military is. And I highly encourage Americans to, if you are in a silo where everyone around you thinks the same, that's actually not great for your soul. And it's been incredibly important to me to have friends from all different backgrounds going through election years or not. I care about these people. I would drop my kids with these people in a second because they're good Americans, regardless of what person they vote for.
Sure. What would you say to any veteran struggling right now?
Well, look, there are thousands of veteran organizations across this country, thousands. There's a lot of them that are famous, but there's a lot of them that aren't. And we hope that every single person that's connected to the military can find an organization that speaks to them and serves their needs. And we know they're there. So I think, we want to make it as easy as possible for people to find them. And over time, that's something that one of our organization's goals. But we really hope people can focus on doing that next step of looking for what might be the answer to something that you're really struggling with, because it's probably out there.
Do you have anything to add?
You talked about how you're a military spouse. How is, on a personal level, this impacted you and your family, this program, or just even the military in general?
I have found that as a military spouse, you are connected to service, of course, because you're supporting a service member, but that, you want to feel your own sense of what you do for this country beyond supporting your service member. And I think, it really can feel good for especially the military family community to find other ways that they themselves can serve. And that's just, it's good for everybody, but it's especially good when you're supporting someone else who's actually doing that. If you can do it too, there's an extra benefit there.
That's really awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. It sounds like a great cause, and we're really glad we got a chance to talk with you. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Now, heading back to the opening night experience.
Yeah.
Where did we even leave off? We were talking about the booth. Yeah, I think.
Chatting a little bit. Yeah, so we're talking about opening night. So we have a group of 9 actually with us total, including our boss Stainbrook. And opening night was just ridiculous. The amount of people that were there, and the way it was structured is it was kind of a boxy feature thing where there was nothing in the middle but just a stage. And on that stage is where they introduced the players at the beginning, and then they let them loose and they went a border around that, around the field. And so it was kind of weird. We thought we were going to be able to use the field to talk to the players. So it was more of a confined space, and you kind of had to push through people in order to do the interviews. But overall, it was pretty fun. But yeah, going back to what I was saying about how there was 9 of us, me and Aiden specifically were on quarterback duty. So I was doing Jalen Hurts, and Aiden was doing Patrick Mahomes. We could both talk a little bit about our experience with that. Me personally, it was crazy. We rushed in right at 5. Because we wanted to get the best possible spot to place the tripod and the camera down in order to shoot the quarterback. So we were able to get a super great spot on the right-hand side of Jalen Hurts' booth. And that was an absolute blast. Media were starting to rush everywhere. And it was just a cool feeling to have, okay, I have that best shot possible. And there's even bigger medias behind. There's NFL to my right. There's Jimmy Kimmel. There's CBS, there's Fox, like you name it. And here we are as a faith-based with the center, perfect shot. So it was just awesome for that. Got 2 questions off to Jalen about faith. And just the thing with that, it was just so cool where his answers can be broadcasted on NFL Network and across the world. Like that can literally change people's minds about either athlete, their faith in God, you name it. So what you tend to forget when you're in that space is that you're affecting the world. Like it's crazy how much that you have your effect on the world. So yeah, personally, that was just my experience with opening night. We'll have Aiden share, and then after that, we'll take a quick break and we'll run through a few videos from both Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, them talking about their faith. So let's hear what Aiden's got to say, and then we'll pop over to that.
So I was not as lucky as Tyler. I could not get a question off because Patrick Mahomes is, as Ian said earlier on the show, probably going to go down as the greatest quarterback of all time. So he was very popular, to say the least. There was a lot of people yelling in my ear. Personally, couldn't hear out of my left ear at the end of the night a little bit because there was a kid yelling a question for like 40 minutes. He finally got it off, to his credit, so he did better than me. But it was just a crazy experience on the quarterback specifically, to be just sitting there for an hour with that one person that you see all over social media, all over your timelines everywhere. And it's just such a big icon. And it felt actually really personal because we had the camera set up, 5 feet, 6 feet from directly where the quarterback was. So it was just felt like, even though I didn't get a question off, it still felt like a conversation in a way. And I feel like I actually got to know Patrick Mahomes, weirdly enough, like on a personal level. And he actually seems like a great guy, great father. Talked about his faith a few times, even unprompted, which was really cool to see. And that was probably the most crazy part of the experience opening night, was just being that close to the quarterbacks, especially. All the other stuff running around the field, that was a lot of fun. And honestly, a lot more nerve-wracking and stressful than just sitting at the quarterback, because it's like, okay, I'm here. This is my shot. I just have to try to get a question off. So, yeah, I think it's important that we stop talking about it so you can actually see what we were doing. So if we want to go ahead and roll that right now.
Oh, it's everything. I actually have faith in the family tatted right here. That's funny you said that. But it's everything to me. It's what keeps you going. It keeps you your hope. Jesus Christ has saved me on so many different occasions, just with my mind and stuff like that, and just what he did for us on the cross. And so there's nothing more important to me than my faith.
Yeah, it means everything. Faith for me is just the foundation, that keeps me grounded. We obviously have a high-stress sport, and there's a lot of eyes on you, but, that's the thing that keeps me grounded. So.
Man, my faith is the only thing that I have in life, man. Without the Lord, we are nothing. And I really preach that to a lot of other folks, man. It's just a great opportunity every single time I look at a stage like this, man. I really feel like I'm living young Keely's dreams, and man, I wouldn't be able to do that without anybody else but the Lord. So, yeah, it's a great feeling.
Trust Jesus, he knows a whole lot better than you. Just trust in God and what his plans are for your life, and enjoy and have fun.
God is greater than any high and low. He's greater than the highs and the lows, and you have to maintain a strong faith in that in the midst of everything. You're gonna have your joys, you're gonna have your pains, but they're all the same in the end. It's about what you learn from it. It's about what you root yourself in.
It means a lot because, that's the reason that I have the opportunity to be here. I grew up, obviously, in the South, so it was a big part of my life, big part of my family's life, and so it means a lot.
Yeah, I would say, like I started the interview with, it's just that priorities are so important. And, being able to make decisions off those priorities. So, like I said, keeping God first, having your family second, and then anything that comes after that, any hobbies, your social life, all that stuff comes after God and family.
Important to be God conscious in all the things that you do. Keep him first and be centered in him and his word, and carry that out as your main source of strength in all your actions.
There's nobody like God himself, man. There's nobody like him. Take you to plenty of different measures that you could even believe yourself, man. Look where we're at right now, and words can't explain how faithful and how grateful I am for this opportunity. So yeah.
All right, everyone, here we are. We're back here at Radio Row in New Orleans. Me and Aiden, you just got a little taste of what opening night started out as with both Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. Now you can kind of understand kind of what the atmosphere was like trying to throw off questions to those guys. It was very difficult. There were hundreds of people yelling all around you, Jalen, all at the same time, trying to get an interview. It was ridiculous. But one thing I did notice that I forgot to mention before is that once you do start getting an interview with one of these players, and it's faith, you start off with faith-based stuff, they really lock eyes with you and they really start to pay attention because they're like, oh, you said God or you said Jesus. Like, this is something I really want to talk about. This is something, that's important to me. So it was just great for that, because when people are yelling, Jalen, like, they're like, no, I want to answer your question because it's faith-based. I want to continue to talk to you and hear what you want to say. So, that was just an incredible thing to witness. And I also noticed that going forward into the other interviews, which we'll expand on in a little bit here. But yeah, let's go back to you, Aiden.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever yelled a man's name so much in my life. I probably yelled Patrick about 50 times that night. Voice was a little hoarse towards the end, not going to lie. And then got back to the house and just immediately started editing all of our footage, which meant a very late night. Not as late as I've heard for some years in the past, thankfully. But Tuesday, we went ahead and started on more interviews in the morning. I believe that was hotel interviews, correct? Yep. So we woke up pretty early, went ahead and came back to Radio Row, hopped on a bus and showed up at the Chiefs Hotel first. Went ahead and had some pretty cool conversations with them. But that was all Tyler, so I'm going to go ahead and let him talk about his conversations with them first.
Yeah, so I believe Chiefs were first, correct? So we started off with the Chiefs. Good morning, all right. We got there roughly an hour in advance to their hotel. It was pretty cool. Sorry, the stream was but yeah, it was pretty cool. It had a similar structure to opening night in a way where booths were set up in one room. I believe it was 4-ish on each side. It was only certain selected players, so I know Travis Kelce wasn't there, I don't think, first day. But yeah, the minute we walked into that room, Patrick Mahomes' booth already had like at least like 20 cameras set up around him, like people claiming their spot immediately. So people took that same mentality from opening night and then moved it over to hotel interviews. But the difference between hotel interviews and opening night is the thing with hotel interviews is that they also had the press conference room as well. So they would open with that for about 15 minutes where Andy Reid would talk and also Patrick Mahomes would talk. And that was a different structure where there's rows of seats and people would sit down, and then you kind of just have to yell out questions. I don't know if people even were raising their hands. I think it was more of just like a hey kind of type thing to get your question off. But so yeah, they started off with that, and then it went straight to booth interviews. Personally, I'd say we had a lot better success with that than we did opening night for sure. I feel like with interviews, I felt like players are a little more willing to go in depth. It still had that kind of chaotic feel to it because there's obviously other reporters around you also yelling as well. But yeah, it was just a fun experience. I felt like that day, at least with the Chiefs, we were able to get the most faith-based content out of them. Drew Tranquil, right? He was probably the best we got from hotel interviews that morning. He just had a lot of good things to say. Was he the one who talked about his number being related to a Bible verse? Yeah, so we had that. Super cool. He was awesome. But that same sort of thing like opening night, where when you're talking about faith-based questions, they're willing to continue to talk to you about those and kind of zone out all the other reporters around you. But yeah, that was great. We also had some other interviews there as well with some of the players. We'll dive in a little bit here to what day 2 of hotel interviews looked like and kind of that different structure, which was honestly even better in some cases. But you can definitely tell with Chiefs players that they are very well media trained, as we can tell when we were talking to them. They were following up pretty well with our questions, very in-depth answers as well. They were really open with their faith, giving, great examples of how their faith is important to them. And they also talked about too how strong their culture is within their team, including their chaplain helping them out, having prayer times, Bible studies, praying before games. Like all of those things are super important to them, which is great. And so, yeah, that's why the Chiefs, we felt, were very well done, media trained. Let's hand it over to Aiden.
So yeah, I went ahead and took over the interviewing responsibilities for that day when we went to the Eagles hotel after that. And it was a lot harder to get answers out of them, or at least good answers. I remember walking up to this one guy's booth, Quinyon Mitchell, who's a finalist for Defensive Rookie of the Year. So you figured that would be a very popular booth. And it was the one that had the least amount of reporters around it, which I thought was interesting. And then I got up there, and then I realized he was giving like 3-word answers to every question people asked him. I asked him about his family, which I figured he'd expand upon more. But he basically just told me that his grandma and his mom inspired him, which is a very common thing for most players, actually. It's those two especially a lot. So didn't get as much content out of them as we wanted, and because they just weren't giving us as much as the Chiefs, and it's kind of felt that way a lot, except for on Wednesday, we went back to the hotels for some interviews, and those were much more productive.
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of a basic over recap kind of here of what the first hotel interviews look like. We're going to jump in here a minute or two to our next rounds of live interviews. We're going to have some of the guys from the military. I believe these are the guys from the flyover for Super Bowl day. So this can be super fun to be able to talk to them. But yeah, that's kind of pretty much what first day of hotel interviews look like. Great experience, fun times, good interviews. Once we get past these next few interviews here, we'll dive a little bit deeper into kind of the atmosphere around us. Obviously, you can't see it right now, but we may be able to take you guys along Radio Row so you guys can kind of see what's happening around us, what companies are here, what major broadcasts are here, like Bleacher Report, Sirius XM, CBS Sports, FanDuel, you name it. Kind of looking at the schedule here for the next hour and 40 minutes here that we have left. We'll bring on these military guys. We should also have an interview coming up with Rod Blankenship, the kicker from the Colts. We'll have him as well. We might have a few other interviews with some other players as well in the future. So yeah, we're ready to go here for our next interview. Let's take a quick break.
Jeff Sambrook, FSPN, Athletes in Action, Total Athlete, and boy, we got a special crew here. Every year there's a flyover. These are the guys that are going to do it. And when I say guys, I mean guys and girls. I'm from Philly. That's a dual thing. So introduce yourself and just what you're doing, and we'll have a little conversation around what's going to happen to make this go, okay?
Hi, I'm Major Jenna Montgomery. I'm a Osprey pilot with VMM 764 out of MCAS Miramar.
Awesome, thank you.
Major Nathan Sampson, Sam.
Major Ivan Morin from VMM 764. I'm from Houston, Texas.
Major Neil Langston, VMM 764, and I'm from Bend, Oregon.
Major Lucas Caravacuris, 764. I'm from Fort Lauderdale.
Awesome. Well, when you guys do the flyover, is there a delta and an outside? What's the formation look like? Who can help me with that?
So there's going to be 6 planes in total. We're going to be in what's called echelon left. So all the planes are going to be slid out to the left. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be 2 F-35 fighter jets in the lead, and then 4 MV-22 Ospreys, as it would be 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Gotcha. So the guys in the 35, how do they go slower? No, is there like a go slow?
They can hover.
Oh, I didn't know.
hover
Those
for
are like
us,
the
but-
old VTOLs?
Oh, yeah. Right,
Oh.
right. Yeah.
Well, the Ospreys are the ones also.
We can hover too. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So somebody talk me through timing. Somebody's doing the clock and like countdown. The Star Spangled Banner just finished, and you guys are supposed to whoosh right then. How's that happen?
Somebody on the roof with the radio, they're telling us speed up, slow down. Here's the rough time you guys can aim for, and then be athletes and make it happen.
Well, and that's within usually like a 3-second window, right?
Yeah. Sure is. Yeah.
That's awesome. Why are you doing this? I'm going to ask each one of you. It means something, and we appreciate your service and what you're doing. But why this? How'd you get involved? Why are we here?
Well, this year the Marine Corps is celebrating its 250th birthday, so they've been invited to do the Super Bowl flyover, and we're here representing them.
And I mean, piloting in general.
This is a unique opportunity for me. This is the first time I've been able to do something like this. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, I wanted to be a pilot since I was a kid. I had that desire to serve, and then the V-22 is just the coolest thing out there. Nothing else like it.
That's awesome.
The day I decided to become a pilot was watching a flyover, flying over the first game that was in, it was called Enron Field at the time, now Minute Maid, now Dyken Park, but it's where the Astros play. I'm a huge Astros fan, so it's really cool for me. That's why I became a pilot, because I saw the flyover, and now I'm able to do one myself, so it's pretty cool.
You're going to live and die with this Houston thing, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Same thing, pretty much. Fort Lauderdale Air and Sea Show. They used to do it all the time, all the jets, and it's what I always wanted to do. And I'm just blessed to be here.
I was lucky to grow up, I think, in the greatest country in the world, and I wanted to serve my country, and I wanted to challenge myself, and I think the toughest branch in the world, too.
You're right. Yeah. And you do work closely with the Navy, so I'll take that.
But yeah.
All right. Well, here they are. The team that's going to be doing the flyover for the Super Bowl on Sunday. So excited to have you guys here. Thanks for what you do for us, and just love who you are and serving our country. We'll be back with some more things in just a minute.
Alrighty, welcome back, everybody. What an amazing talk with the flyover guys. That was just an awesome experience to be able to talk with them. And I couldn't imagine being able to do that.
Yeah.
Just such a once in a lifetime experience to be able to do that. So yeah, let's kind of go back to what we were chatting about with hotel interviews. So we kind of talked about already kind of what the first day one of hotel interviews liked and kind of the structure of the booths and also the press conference stuff and kind of what that looked like for both the Chiefs and the Eagles. But yeah, so now let's kind of jump into day two. So similar start times as well for both of those interviews for both the Eagles and Chiefs. But this time they had roundtables. So personally, this is one of my favorite things. So first they start off the press conference room, and then they still had the booth room where they had certain select players. I know at least for the Eagles, they had a different selections of players for this day than the previous day. I know AJ Brown was one of the main ones that was on day two for booths in the hotel. But yeah, and then finally the third room was the roundtables. So personally, me and Aiden spent a lot of time at these roundtables with the Eagles players. But basically how this worked is when we walked in, each roundtable had little name tags of the players. Some only had 2, some had 3. We kind of reserved our spot at a table with 3 guys, 2 offensive tackles and a center. So that was super cool. Yeah, so we waited a good portion of time before they came in. I would say almost up to an hour. But yeah, so we sat down with them. They were pretty cool. We did start to notice though that some of the other reporters honestly weren't that respectful of us talking to all 3. Like, sure, we had all 3, but we had them pass the mic around, which was super cool. Kind of like the talking stick back in middle school, kind of funny thing we were joking around them with. But yes, that's kind of what we were doing there. As time went on though, reporters started to kind of pull them away. But blanking on his name, but the guy in the middle stayed 72. Yeah, he stayed consistent with us, which was super cool. He was a fun guy. But yeah, so we started with that, and then we moved towards more individual interviews. We were kind of just walking around waiting for somebody to open up. But the great thing about that day specifically was, like I said, there's just more time to interview these guys just because they're sitting at a table. It's not as loud. They have more time to kind of dive deeper into what they want to talk about specifically. We talked to Rick, blanking on his last name, but he's one of their veteran players. And we kind of talked about My Cause and My Cleats, which is the NFL thing where they support certain foundations, and even some of them, I have some cancer ones as well, where a kid maybe would design the cleats for the player and then they would wear them in some of their games or a Super Bowl. So that's a super cool thing that we kind of were able to discuss with Rick, and he talked about some of the foundations that he supports. And he talked about how he supported some infertility foundations because he talked about how he and his wife weren't able to have a kid originally, and that was just a super tough time for them. But also it brought light out of that situation where they were able to adopt some kids, and it was just an amazing experience for them. And now his wife was able to get pregnant, and now they have a kid along the way. So it's just such a cool moment to share with Rick. And yeah, let's pass it on to Aiden.
So yeah, that was mostly what we did on Wednesday, at least players wise. Came back to Radio Row, and that's when it really started getting pretty crowded in here, and you would just see every 10 seconds you turn, there's a celebrity here. It's kind of it's kind of nuts now, and it's even more like that today. I was just walking down the middle aisle, and I just looked to my right, and there's Stephen A. Smith, who's probably like the most famous sports analyst, who I heard is actually considering a presidential run in 2028. So we could have just bumped into our next president on accident, which was pretty interesting. But yeah, just spent a lot of time at Radio Row. And then today as well, we had the halftime press conference with all of the performers from the Super Bowl. It was Lauren Daigle, John Batiste. Who was the lady that was with them? What was her name? Blanking on her name. Yeah, and then of course Kendrick Lamar at the end, which is a halftime performer. And you're probably a bigger Kendrick fan than me, so I'll let you go ahead and talk about that because that was probably pretty interesting for you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I used to be a big Kendrick Lamar fan. His Damn album was my favorite back in the day, back in middle school when I was like huge into listening to rap. Um, but yeah, it was pretty cool. He had a lot of cool things to say. He got honestly pretty deep, at least with the kid reporter questions. So after each small interview that they had for the pre-show performers, and then halftime show performers. There were 3 different kids, one from NFL Play 60, one from Nickelodeon, and one from Boys and Girls Club, I believe, in New Orleans. So those are really cool. I'm blanking a little bit on what the question was from the kid from Nickelodeon, but it was really cool about, it was like something with mental health. I'm trying to remember. Staying authentic. Yeah, it was just cool. Kendrick, he got real in that moment. And as the commentators of that said, it's very difficult for him to get on live TV or just to sit down for an interview. So it was just a super cool experience to kind of share with people there. And he started off a little bit quiet, but the more questions that were asked, the more he was willing to open up. And he seems like a very, very humble guy who cares about, his fans and obviously the kid reporters, that asked the question. But yeah, that was honestly a pretty cool experience. Kind of the way they had it lined up with the lights and the screen, and the audio was fantastic. You can also watch a recap of that if you're interested on Apple Music app. Lauren Daigle was super cool to hear from. I did not know she was a local from Louisiana, which is really cool. She's a big Christian artist. You've probably heard a few of her songs on K-Love or other, Christian radios. But she kind of talked about her childhood and getting into music and how much the music here in New Orleans really impacted her to really, grow in her music career. Just walking down Bourbon Street, listening to jazz artists on the street. So it was really cool to hear about those things from her. I don't know who was the guy on the very far right? John Batiste. Man, that guy had a lot to say. He was very intentional with his words, and he was deep. Like, he really cared about how music moves people and how he does not care at all about the popularity, but he cares more about how his music is going to impact others and just kind of the feel within his music. I've never personally listened to his music before, but it was just a really cool experience.
Yeah, I personally was more intrigued by what Lauren Daigle had to say. So it was very interesting that they had a Christian artist that they selected to be part of the pre-show. And she actually did talk about God in it, unprompted, especially. I believe it was something to the effect that the space between the ear and your mouth or wherever music's coming from, a speaker, that's God's space, and that's how he moves people. And a really interesting thing that I noticed in the room is that's the only thing that anybody said today that I heard a verbal reaction to. Something along the lines of just everybody going, or something like that. And that was really interesting because I've noticed that in press conferences too, that you'll see people nod along or something to that effect whenever somebody's talking about their faith. And I think that might be a way of them expressing that they're in agreement or that they're actually being moved in the moment. And I think there is this conception that we as Christians like to push a lot, that, hey, media, there's not a lot of Christianity in that. Hollywood, bad place, very sinful. And I think being here and seeing how many people just like come up and talk to us when they just see somebody wearing a cross or something, I think this is a space that there is actually a lot more Christians in than we think. And I think it is a space that the Christians are finally starting to push themselves into more, and you're seeing a lot of athletes open up and talk about their faith a lot more. And we do have a few more of those clips, so I think that right now would actually be a good time to go ahead and roll some of those.
I have a tattoo of Acts 27 through 12, and it's about a kid named Eutychus, and the way that it was explained to me about him kind of being half in, half out on faith, and how he had to be fully in on faith, and that's something that I'll forever remember, because at that time I feel like I was half in and half out, and now I'm full in.
I love Matthew chapter 25. It talks about, the 3 different people that received talents, and it talked about how they handled those talents. And I always think about that for my life. What talents have I been given, and which ones do I kind of want to hide? and which ones do I want to go out and try to risk and multiply. And ideally, we're embracing all of our talents and not afraid to let those shine and show those to the world. And I think it's kind of like my motivation to go out into the world and speak about what I want to speak about and try to glorify him to the best of my ability.
So I'm blessed to have a really great friend group at this point. I've cultivated a lot of groups of strong Christians and guys that I can rely on and count on. And, you know, I think it's important that you're a mentor to someone, but you also have mentors as well. So there's times where I'm quiet and I just do my Bible studies on my own. I just reflect and think. And then there's times that I go and surround myself with good people that make me better. I think switching it up and keeping a balance of everything is pretty important.
No, I just want to be the same person every single day, and I feel like whenever I'm in my Bible, or if I'm praying and listening to God, he helps me be that person. He helps me be a great person to my teammates, more than a great player. And I think that's something that shapes me every single day. And I've grown in my years in the NFL, and with my team chaplain, Marcellus Casey, he's helped me grow and become a better man and a better husband and better father because of that.
My faith as a Christian means so much to me, and just the position that God's put me in to be able to, share his word, share his name. It's nothing short of a blessing.
You know, Coach Reed always leads us in an Our Father after the game, and James Winchester, the long snapper, he always leads the entire team in prayer before every game. And I think that's really special for all of us to come together again, remind ourselves that all these talents are gifts from God, and it's a blessing just to be out here, and hopefully we can go out and use those talents to glorify Him. So it's a blessing to be on this stage, and we got to remember that every time, win or lose.
It's not about football. It's just giving glory to God for being able to walk around and live my life, to have a beautiful family, to be able to have impact on others. And I'm going to use that stage and that platform, win or lose, to give glory back to Him, to hopefully bring others closer to Him, and that they can have the same love for life that I have because of that.
We are live, joined back by Darren Gray. Darren, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself and talk a little about what you do.
Well, you just did, but I'm Darren Gray with Athletes in Action. And man, it's so fun to be at the Super Bowl 2025 to talk about the things that make a difference in the holy spaces, right, in the sacred spaces. We're here to celebrate Jesus through Athletes in Action with the Bart Starr Award, Super Bowl breakfast, and all of those things which will bring honor and glory to the Lord. I know that matters to you guys too.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and talk a little bit more about the Bart Starr Award, I know some pretty prominent Christian athletes have won it in the past, like Kirk Cousins.
Indeed, it's been involved a very amazing process. So Kirk Cousins, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, it's really a who's who, but it's not so much about their fame. It's about who they are and their character. It's about their values and how we celebrate that across the world. We really worked hard to grow the brand in and around both the Bart Starr Award and Super Bowl breakfast, which is an NFL sanctioned program. Think about that. Little old Athletes in Action with an opportunity to reach the world for Christ with this great little program called the Bart Starr Award and Super Bowl breakfast. So it's an honor to be a part of that. I'm the executive director of media for that program and just serve alongside many committed people that help to bring that to pass. But you mentioned the Green Bay Packers, right? It's named after, the namesake is Bart Starr. For the viewers that don't know, he was the winner of Super Bowl I and Super Bowl II. But tell us why it is that he had the first three-peat.
Because before Super Bowl I, it was just the NFL, the NFC actually was the only one, and they had their own championship, and the Packers won that, and then they won Super Bowl I and II. So technically, they had the first three-peat. Bears fans don't like that when Packers bring that up, but I'm gonna hold on to it for a bit. But the Bart Starr Award is something that has gained a lot of recognition. It was even mentioned in the Netflix quarterback series recently.
Episode 8, about 21 minutes in, you'll see me and Kirk Cousins. I'm talking to Kirk Cousins and Mike Singletary, I think, and just doing my job in the normal course of things. But we had invited NFL Network to come out to film that day. And wouldn't you know, that little clip got used. But what was really cool, just a week before, I got to fly up to Kirk Cousins' home. And for 4 hours, we filmed in Kirk's home, he and Julie and the kids, and got an opportunity to know the man behind the football. And you know what's super cool about it is that his walls were filled with like Bible verses. There were puzzles that were of godly things. His home just kind of had an aroma of Christ, and it's no accident that he is a Jesus follower and that he's willing to share his faith in so many different settings. So we just think the world of Kirk Cousins and how he lifted up the Bible that day and gave credit to the Lord. But again, it's not about any one of these men that we would honor. It's about who it is that they are in Christ, how it is that they comport themselves in their career, which is to be an active NFL player, to be of character and a leader known on and off the field, and to be voted on by your peers. What a treat, what an honor just to have a small part of that. And we're so thankful to FSPN, Athletes in Action, and this network. Let's talk about Total Athlete. Let's go. Like, what do you think about Total Athlete? Come on in here.
Well, personally, I don't know much about Total Athlete. I would love to learn more, though.
Mental, physical, spiritual. You know, when you think about how an athlete trains, you've got the physical part, of course.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the mental part of the game. Everybody's talking about mental health and what that means. But I tell you what, the spiritual dimension, that high calling, that how it is that we prepare ourselves to compete when it gets tough. Because for every athlete, there's always going to be adversity. There's always going to be challenges. And the spiritual part and the mental part's going to what gets you through. And so we at Athletes in Action love talking about the total athlete. It's just the simple way that we have to use that on college campuses, over 200 of them across the country. And you know what? In our world, we believe in unity in the body of sports, media, and ministry. So Athletes in Action, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Professional Athlete Outreach is like how we all come together to conduct ourselves in a way to really make room for all of us to minister to the athletes and to be present for them. I call it the ministry of availability, so that you can earn the right to speak when they're ready to talk about their faith. And so we can take athletes on trips. We can find ways to engage with them in the locker room and certainly on campus, so that athlete can know that he's got a safe place to go to talk about the tough things. I got to believe you guys are college students too, right? So where you go to school?
Colorado Christian University.
How about that? And do you feel like there's a strong faith center at a Christian university that you go to?
Especially.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like the whole reason why I went to CCU is all about the community. And that's what you have, because there's only 1,200 students on campus. So it's just such an incredible experience to have that small knit group of people that, want to know more about Christ and want to share it across the world.
Amazing, guys. Now I'm an OG. I don't mean original gangster. I mean old guy. But the truth is, this old guy who loves God, loves Jesus, prioritize those things in my life, found a way to make a career in and around sports, media, and ministry. And that's what you guys are doing here, learning the trade, finding ways to lift up those things that matter, right? How do we use media to reach a whole lot of people, to encourage them? And so to all the viewers that are joining in live now, or that might see this at a later time shifted, we're so grateful for you, because truthfully, you're important, right? What you're doing in your life matters. And so we just want to let you know that, right? We are AIA, you are AIA, and we need your help. Athletes in Action. So come along, check us out at athletesinaction.org. You can learn more about what it is we're doing with the Total Athlete Solution, about the John Wooden Family Fieldhouse, about all the things that we do to help support athletes, the coaches around athletes, the whole ecosystem around sport, and family members too. So jump on. In fact, we just released some of our curriculum today having to do with the Super Bowl and how to watch the big game, but do it in a faith-filled way. So you can jump on even now if you're watching athletesinaction.org to learn more about that. And we're just so thankful that we're here today with you to share the good word about Christ and find ways to lift up the things that really, really matter in sport.
Have you had any moments so far being here at Super Bowl with somebody where you shared a strong connection?
Oh, man. You know what? My favorite moment so far, have you heard of Demario Davis? He's a linebacker for the New Orleans Saints. He and I were at an event on Tuesday night, and we did a live Lauren Daigle concert for 100 people. And she sang the song that made the room cry. You Say, like this idea that identity of who we are, I might think I'm not enough, but I'm enough, right? Just because of who I am and whose I am. And so that's been my favorite moment so far. Both Demario and Tamala were there as the host. And of course, they're in demand. You saw them on national TV. I saw you guys bumping around on Monday night at media night and doing such a great job of interviewing athletes. And as others, that might be trying to get in and kind of get a question in, like, you're doing it for purpose. And so just like with Demario, he's a guy that's willing to share his purpose all the time, to be on purpose for Christ, and for him to step up and host that concert on Tuesday night, even after doing media night the night before, and then to invite me to come and be part of that on behalf of International Justice Mission, that is far and away my favorite moment. But I've got some cool things happening tomorrow with Tony Dungy. We're going to do children's hospital visits. We're taking the former head coach of the New Orleans Saints to do hospital visits. And we've got a lot of athletes that'll come out for that. And that's always really touching, because that's you first got to minister to the few before you can minister to the many. We're going to go in the places where young people are affected by the trauma of health conditions, and we're taking in what we call super baskets of hope, valued at $450. So we're going to go in and give each family this wonderful little gift so they can have resources and materials. And quietly, although this is a secular project, we've put a Bible in each of the kits, so that for the ones that are attuned and want to know more, as we're talking to them, or he's praying with them, or Sean Payton's praying with them, we know that we've got that to support them in their hospital room. So we couldn't be more excited. But the main thing is it's the Birth Star Awards Super Bowl breakfast, 38th annual, and we've got an opportunity to literally reach over 100 million people. That's probably about how many gross impressions that we'll reach. And so this is just one little part of that. Hopefully we're reaching tens of thousands even now. And as we think about stacking all those on top of each other, just sharing a good word, getting them to slow down, prioritize their own faith, and remind them of who they are and whose they are, which are children of the Most High God.
Amen. Amen. So Darren, we've been asking a lot of the players what their favorite Bible verse is, and I was wondering if you have one in particular.
Come on. 2 Timothy 1:7. We're not to have a spirit of timidity nor fear, but of power, of love, and of self-discipline. Some of the traditions call a power, love, and a sound mind. Now think about that. It's like talking about mental health 2,000 years ago in biblical times. And so when I think about slowing down to have the power of the Holy Spirit in my life, but to prioritize the most important thing, which I believe is love, God said, love others, and love me, love others. Right, here we go. But 2 Timothy 1:7, it's a great verse. You should check it out. It's something you can latch onto and then use in your daily life. But it starts with the first challenge, which is not to have fear. In the Bible, 365 times it talks about not having fear in our life. So we believe that it's an opportunity just to slow down, because sometimes before you speed up, you got to slow it down just a little bit. So that verse speaks to me and hits me just right. How about you?
Mine is 2 Corinthians 4:17, I think. And it's, for these light and momentary troubles are preparing for us an eternal glory which far outweighs them all. And I found that verse in a very dark time in my life about 2 years ago, and that helped me keep going especially.
I love that. How about you?
For me, I'm blanking on the name of it, but it says, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow has enough trouble of its own." So for me, for someone who struggles with anxiety, it's
You're like a living testimony to the mental health challenge. And you know what? You're not alone.
Exactly.
Like me too.
Yeah.
Like
that's what you feel. You feel like you're alone, but there's so many people
around. But look around, like we all have struggles. Some at higher degrees than others. Some people might need medical support. Others might just need talk therapy. Others just need an opportunity to know that they're not alone, and we're all wrestling with the dark hours, right? The tough times. And so when we come into community, that's really important. In fact, that's why I started a project called the Pro Player Prayer Project. So, just a few months ago, had a bunch of people down in Nashville, Tennessee, and fortunately we had Tim Tebow and Dan Orlovsky, and there were some real heroes of the faith that joined us online, and then we had dozens and dozens of athletes that came together just to stop and say we need to pray collectively. Like, we as Americans, we pray. Like, the research, George Barna's research says that we pray, but the truth is we don't all pray together. So I think we should do that even now, right? With the viewers that are with us, would that be okay if we prayed? Lord, thank you for a chance to come together and be with these young men and the producers and the directors and all those that are around us that aren't even on camera, but they're serving selflessly, all coming together in your name. Help to lift up who you are in us so that we can testify to your strength in us, not by our power, but by yours, Lord, that we might be humble and lowly, that we might get small when we need to get small, but be willing to be bold when we need to be bold, to share a message of hope and of light, to be the salt and the light in the world. So as we think even about this place, Media Row, where so many people have come together, and maybe they're bringing in their ego, in fact, unchecked ego sometimes with fame and fortune. And hey, that's great if you want to use it for the right purpose, Lord, but teach us how to do that, how to find ways to lead for you, to be attuned to who you are, but to know you better, to love you more, to love each other, to pray collectively, and be fearless in how we share that. So, Lord, we love you now. We're going to serve you even when it's hard, even when we're anxious, even when we struggle. And in the midst of all that, Lord, we're just going to call on your holy name, right, to fill up this place, Media Row, that your sweet aroma might go out through the entire world until everybody knows about Jesus. Lord, we love you so, and we're going to serve you. In Jesus' name, all the people said, amen. So thanks for letting me come on your show today and finding a way to work me in. I know you've got amazing guests still yet to come. You've had amazing guests already. So to bring on little old Darren Gray to talk a little bit about Athletes in Action, that sure means a lot. Check us out at athletesinaction.org. Learn more, be more, get involved. And we thank you for bringing us on today. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much, Darren. It was a pleasure having you.
Now roll that Patrick Mahomes clip that everybody really wants to see. Have some fun. Okay, you good?
I mean, without God, I wouldn't be here. I mean, most praise to the Most High. I mean, it's unbelievable. I still look back and, third year in the league and third Super Bowl appearance. It's pretty cool. So without him, I definitely wouldn't be here.
That's the reason I'm here, man. Jesus Christ, my Lord and personal Savior. I'm all the way from Nigeria, and then to be here playing in 2 Super Bowls back-to-back, it can only be God. I'm blessed to be where I'm at.
So right now, I'm really leaning into Micah 7:7, a little Old Testament action. It says, "As for me, I will wait expectantly for the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation." And so I'm excited to see what he does. I'm expecting him to work whether we win or lose. I know that we'll be able to use this experience to.
I think Psalms 46:10, "Be still and know that I am God," is kind of the one that I always reflect back on. Faith, to me, I almost don't even put it in the same category as like family and sports, because that's really the underlying foundation to everything else. So family makes sense because of your faith. Sports makes sense because of your faith. And your priorities after that make sense because of your foundational faith. So, yeah, that's by far the number one priority for me.
Okay. I mean, super important. You got to put all your activities in God's hands. I mean, I wake up every morning and I pray. I say a word of prayer to God, read my devotional, because, you want him to set his angels before you to set your steps right.
It's the whole thing. Like without God, without Jesus Christ as my Savior, like there's no way I could be here right now. He's brought me through so much, and the journey to get here has been wild. Being a kid from a tiny town of 2,000 people total, the population. I graduated with 28 people in high school, so like it's just being able to overcome those odds, and then also I had injuries throughout my career, and then be able to get here and then get to this stage, it's just been a testament of how good he is.
Yeah, I think when you play a sport like football and there's a lot of mental anxiety and pressure that can come with that, you need something to revert back to, something to give you peace in the moments when the going gets tough. So for me, that's prayer, reflection on my Bible, studies with the team. Going through that with teammates is a really big deal, and especially the Chiefs have such a good group of guys that makes it really easy to just find identity in the guys around you and establish faith together.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to FSPN here live at Radio Row in New Orleans for Super Bowl 59. I'm Tyler,
I'm Aiden.
That's Aiden. And we just heard a little bit from Darren, which is an awesome experience learning more about athletes in action and how you can get involved and how they are making a major difference and impact in the NFL. You just saw some clips from opening night where we were talking to Chiefs and Eagles players about their faith and how it's impacted their lives. And so before that last interview a while back, we were discussing what day 2 hotel interviews were looking like. And yeah, you were talking a little bit about that and it kind of got cut off. So if you want to continue to what you were saying.
I honestly have no recollection of what I was saying, in entirely honesty. So I'm going to actually pivot and talk about the NFL on Fox interviews today, because that was actually probably my favorite interviews, weirdly enough, even though I was not expecting that at all. So as Darren kind of mentioned, I'm a huge Packers fan. So I grew up watching Charles Woodson. First season I watched, we won the Super Bowl. I watched that DVD a million times over because that's the only Super Bowl I got to watch in my lifetime for the Packers. And he talks a lot on it. And then when we walked into the NFL on Fox booth, I saw his name placard and I was like, okay, we are going there immediately. I don't care if I'm there for 60 minutes. I need to get a question off on him. And I got a question off and the dude talked for like 3 minutes off my question. It was insane. And then I asked another one and he kept talking. So all of my melt reel today, Steven, is going to be just Charles Woodson. And which was really cool. He was actually like a really cool guy. Talked about the importance of patience because he went to a Super Bowl in 2002. Which was really young in his career, and had to wait all the way until 2010 to go to his second one, and eventually ended up winning. Now I know for those interviews, you were actually just walking around with the camera and just had some pretty fun stories to tell. So if you want to go and talk about that.
Yeah, so it was kind of nice actually to have a break. I like how Fox Sports did it though, where they gave us food, separate credentials as well. And there were a lot of commentators and analysts and whatnot there. But yeah, so my job, I was really just walking around taking photos, making these guys look cool, and also capturing the analysts and reporters. Sadly, we were missing Tom Brady and also
Aaron Andrews.
And who was the last guy?
The other guy.
The other guys. Yeah. So that was a little unfortunate, but we still had a great time. It was awesome for me just to be able to actually be able to listen in to some of these conversations that you guys were having, and also other questions as well. You know, when you're waiting to get an interview or you're the guy behind the camera, it's so hard to really kind of focus in on what they're saying. And because you're constantly trying to fire off questions, or you're trying to think, oh gosh, you know, what's the next question I got to get off? You know, oh no. So, it's pretty stressful in a way. But when I was just being able to take photos, I was able to kind of step back and be able to process what they were saying. But yeah, Gronk was super cool to watch and listen in on. Julian Edelman as well. When I was over with Steven, with Julian Edelman, I can't remember exactly what the question you were asking him. What advice would you give your 10-year-old self? Yeah, so that was the question. And he said, Google. He said, put all your money in the stocks like Google and NVIDIA. I don't know if you talked about crypto, maybe. But yeah, Julian Edelman was just kind of a fun guy to interact and talk with. He treated you like a friend. And he was honestly like trying to keep the conversation going with you instead of going to the other reporters or whatnot. So yeah, for me, that was a cool experience. Funny moment, though. Make sure your backpack is completely zipped and the zipper is not broken. When I stood up to leave, my zipper was actually broken and I thought it went all the way around, and all my equipment fell out of my bag onto the floor. Thankfully, people were there helping me pick up. This is my personal gear, not FSPN gear, so we're okay.
I'm worried about your gear too.
I am too, but yeah, thankfully my gear is fine. It's working properly, and my backpack made it back to here at Media Row. But yes, Fox Sports, it was fun. Super cool that they're doing it this year, so it'll be fun to tune in Super Bowl day to see what Tom Brady and some of the other guys have to say.
So I've mentioned a few times, I've been watching football since I was 6. So I've asked a ton of faith questions, but I've taken it upon myself to also get to ask some football questions to reporters that 6-year-old me would be proud of. So during the Fox one, all of the broadcasters were super busy, like all of the ones who were former players, especially like Michael Vick, Rob Gronkowski. But the ones who were just analysts had like 4 people at them, I would say, on average. So I actually went up to, I think it was Mike Pereira, who is the head officiator of all broadcasts. So anytime there's a play call that nobody knows, he gets called in and you'll see him on the screen. And I got to ask him what he thought about the new kickoff change. And that was a pretty fun moment. And we've been asking actually a lot of players about that. Mike in particular thinks it's here to stay. And he actually likes it a lot because of, I think he said it's statistically proven that there are a lot less injuries right now, and player safety is something the NFL is really pushing. So we're definitely going to see that stay. Now, you asked a lot of players about that. So do you want to talk about what the players said?
I was going to go off of that. This goes back to the hotel interviews with the Eagles. When we were sitting with the center and 2 offensive tackles, we thought it'd be a good idea to kind of ask them what their thoughts on the extra padding that they just implemented this season in the NFL. So kind of expanding on that is pretty much as an extra helmet padding that you usually see in photos from practice, where it usually has their last name or player number, usually with tape on top of that extra padding. And basically what it does is it kind of helps prevent concussions and other injuries. And recently this year, for both, I believe college as well, and NFL have implemented this, allowing players to wear them in NFL games. Personally, I haven't seen that many wear them. There was a few times maybe where I saw an offensive tackle or maybe a center wearing them. They're actually pretty hard to notice on TV. But if you really zoom in, you can be like, okay, this guy's helmet's a little bit bigger than the other guys. They did talk a little bit, the Eagles players, how they do look kind of goofy. They call them marshmallow. Okay, yeah. So like it makes you look like Megamind a little bit in a way, where your head is just way too big. But they did say, it definitely helps reduce, concussions and other injuries. So yeah, it was just kind of cool to ask them certain, NFL rules and whatnot, and kind of get their take on them. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Do we want to jump into a break here? To we can recap some of those Eagle interviews on Hotel Days, so you guys can take a look at that. So we'll see you here in a few minutes.
I mean, without God, I wouldn't be here. I mean, most praise to the Most High. I mean, it's unbelievable. Still look back and, third year in the league and 3rd Super Bowl appearance, pretty cool. So without him, I definitely wouldn't be here.
That's the reason I'm here, man. Jesus Christ, my Lord and personal Savior. I'm all the way from Nigeria, and then to be here playing in 2 Super Bowls back-to-back, it can only be God. I'm blessed to be where I'm at.
So right now, I'm really leaning into Micah 7:7, a little Old Testament action. It says, "As for me, I will wait expectantly for the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation." And so I'm excited to see what he does. I'm expecting him to work, whether we win or lose. I know that we'll be able to use this experience to.
I think Psalms 46:10, "Be still and know that I am God," is kind of the one that I always reflect back on. Faith, to me, I almost don't even put it in the same category as like family and sports, because that's really the underlying foundation to everything else. So family makes sense because of your faith. Sports makes sense because of your faith. And your priorities after that make sense because of your foundational faith. So, yeah, that's by far the number 1 priority for me.
Okay. I mean, super important. You got to put all your activities in God's hands. I mean, I wake up every morning and I pray. I say a word of prayer to God, read my devotional, because, you want him to set his angels before you to set your steps right.
it's the whole thing. Like without God, without Jesus Christ as my Savior, like there's no way I could be here right now. He's brought me through so much, and the journey to get here has been wild. Being a kid from a tiny town of 2,000 people total, the population. I graduated with 28 people in high school, so like it's just being able to overcome those odds, and then also I've had injuries throughout my career, and then be able to get here and then get to this stage, it's just been a testament of how good he is.
Yeah, I think when you play a sport like football and there's a lot of mental anxiety and pressure that can come with that, you need something to revert back to, something to give you peace in the moments when the going gets tough. So for me, that's prayer, reflection on my Bible, studies with the team. Going through that with teammates is a really big deal, and especially the Chiefs have such a good group of guys that makes it really easy to just find identity in the guys around you and establish faith together.
And we are back live. Glad you got to enjoy that video again, in case you missed it the first time when you had to go get some snacks. But we decided that we're going to go ahead and close out this hour in the next 30 minutes, talking about the Radio Row experience especially. And Tyler, I think it's been pretty cool for you, so I want you to go ahead and start with that first.
Yeah, so I've definitely had an amazing experience at Radio Row, which we are currently at right now, almost dead center here in the middle of Radio Row. Just looking around us here, it's pretty much smaller broadcasts here in the middle rectangular section. It's pretty much like field structure-ish, and then the sidelines, quote unquote, is going to be all of your major corporations. So you got people like Bounty here. They're giving out wings every single day. Let's go. They're good. That ranch is really good. But we've been able to enjoy that. You've got Overtime. I passed by them a few times. They had Justin Jefferson on twice. They had Travis Hunter just earlier today. I'm assuming they had Shadur Sanders. He just walked by a few minutes ago in front of us.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I just lost my credential. We also, DraftKings is right across from us. Outkick. We have Toyota here as well. FanDuel, Pat McAfee as well was streaming. He might still be live right now. I don't know, but he's pretty cool to watch. Obviously, he has some hot takes usually. They had a little meet and greet as well. We had a few FSPN members go over there. Maybe they got a chance to talk. I don't know. We'll have to catch up with them here in a few to see how that went. But yeah, Radio Row has been an amazing experience. Super chaotic. There is people everywhere running amok. People are connecting, networking, people chatting, celebrities literally wherever you look. Like right now, we're honestly seeing celebrities all around us. Top analysts, media personnel, executives, CEOs, you name it. Personally, Radio Row has been one of my favorite experiences so far, just being able to connect with people and just kind of see the amazing sets that are being built around us. Pat McAfee has an incredible set, massive set. Bounty, they literally have like a 3-leveled house over there where they're producing wings and hanging out. So it's just been a super fun experience so far to be able to share and connect with others. So yeah, let's hear what Aiden's got to say about Radio Row.
So the first day, it was pretty crazy to me. Because and I was just seeing like Chris Sims, who was like a more B tier analyst in terms of popularity. And like now I'm walking around seeing Stephen A. Smith, Kay Adams, Nick Wright, all these big analysts. And it's gotten to the point where like I used to stop and take a video of them or a picture and send it to like my friends or my family or something. And now I just look at my right, I'm like, oh, that's that guy. And I just keep walking. And that's a very weird experience to have. We're just seeing a very famous person. It's just normal and you just keep walking. I got bumped into by a guy and it turned out, and I turned around, I was like, come on, man. And then it's the Packers running back. And then I was like, oh, I'm not going to say he could do whatever he wants. He's the only reason we made it to the playoffs. So I'm okay if he wants to take out all that rage on me. But that was pretty funny. Just turn around and just Josh Jacobs. My favorite part of Radio Row, though, is the unlimited drinks that we get. Free food is a nice perk of media here. even if it is just pretzels sometimes, and that's your entire lunch. But yeah, like the whole experience is just Radio Row is the one you get to digest the most, I think, because you have the most amount of time here. Whereas you show up at a hotel interview, you're unpacking gear as fast as you can, trying to get audio working. Whereas here, you kind of get a chance to just take it in and walk around a little more. So that's been pretty nice. And we're going to be here tomorrow again. And just people just come up and talk to you here too. That's like one of the weirdest things to me is we go to a pretty outgoing university compared to most still, where people just come up and talk to everybody. But here it's that times 10. Like I'll just be sitting at the table and somebody comes up and starts talking to me. Yesterday we were in the media room and I had a Packer sticker on my laptop. So I went ahead and I was just editing and somebody walks up and points at me and is like, starts talking to me. I have my headphones on. I take them off. And it's a guy who works for the Packers. And then he started talking to me about that. My parents are from Wisconsin, so we get to talk about that for a bit. So just like the people you'll meet is just really cool here. And that's one of the best parts about this. And honestly, like meeting the athletes, coaches, huge media personalities are fun, but just the small random ones are actually the ones that have been pretty fun as well. And yesterday I actually, it was my birthday, which is what made this is exceptionally crazy, is there's a YouTuber that I've been watching since 2019. And I'm just walking back to our table and I turned around, I was like, hey, that kind of looks like Tom Grassi. I'm like, wait, that is Tom Grassi. So I went up to him and talked to him and talked about how it was my birthday and my brother's birthday the day before. And I texted my brother about it because he watches them too and said I can die happy knowing Tom Grassi knew it was my birthday. So that was a pretty fun moment. So yeah.
I think for me, doing stuff with the Buffs, it was just so cool to see Travis Hunter here and Shedeur Sanders just walking by. I'm like, oh, I've seen these guys before. Like, it's insane how small the sports media world actually is. Like, everyone knows everyone, even though it seems like it just goes on forever. You know, like it's just cool that the small interactions that you have with others, like you said, with the Packers and just other media personnel. It's just a fun and cool experience. Yeah, looking forward to the next few days to see, what interviews we'll be getting and what people will be meeting. But yeah, it's definitely an overstimulating experience. I went over yesterday to the Nickelodeon station where I got some free slime and got a picture with SpongeBob and Patrick, which is a cool childhood moment. But yeah, there's just a lot of fun random sets that have been built in here. The Packers one was pretty cool over there. The guys from Green Bay. Yeah, SiriusXM has a massive area over there with 4 different stages. They had Jonathan Taylor there earlier. Shaheed. Sorry, he has a very difficult name to say. He was also over there as well. But they seem to be rotating through players pretty much every hour, discussing with them about their careers and whatnot. But as a Broncos fan, I have not seen any Broncos players yet, nor staff. Sean Payton is rumored to be here. No, I'm just kidding. You saw him in person?
He was over there.
Wow, okay, so Sean Payton is here. No sign of Bo Nix. No sign of Pat Surtain. None of the big guys here.
Pat Surtain is going to be here, though.
Yes, we'll keep you guys updated if we do get a chance to talk to these guys. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. So, yeah, as we got roughly 20 minutes left here before we wrap up for the night here at Radio Row. What would you like to talk about?
Well, I'd like to address the elephant in the room. There's this, as you may see. Yeah. On your right, you'll see. I don't know because that's 15 seconds delayed.
Orleans station.
So that means he's probably.
Actually, it's me. You can actually hear me.
Steven, can you see where he is right now? Is there any way you could turn it where we could see it and commentate on it? Oh yeah, Lambeau Field. That's pretty cool. Well, anyways, on your right you'll see a media booth, and then
yes. Honestly, what you're seeing here is like how massive this convention center is. Like, it literally stretches on. Like, this is like a Costco. Like literally a Costco, but without the shelves.
This is the biggest convention center I've ever been to, and this reminds me, there's also the fan experience here, which we went to yesterday. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So we showed up to that yesterday. Uh, I'd say it's about the same size as Media Row, maybe even bigger. But I think they at least have one full-size turf field in there, which they'll be having the celebrity flag football game, which hopefully we'll be getting content for you guys at that. And what are we looking at here? We got some people on the screen. No, but so yeah, Super Bowl experience. We're gonna have Kai Cenat versus Speed flag football game. We're definitely gonna get you content from that. If you don't know who those guys are, they are big media personalities. Oh, and now we got Toyota. So we're looking at Toyota here. We can see Stainbrook from across the.
Oh, he's coming back. He's coming back. And wave to the camera.
Oh, wave.
Yeah, there's the camera.
So yeah, flag football game coming up. If you're a fan, please go over there. You can see the Vince Lombardi trophy. They have miniature locker rooms for every single team. They also have field goal kicking areas. So try your luck if you want to. That's a pretty cool thing. They also have some memorabilia there as well. Also a silent auction. So if you want to buy some jerseys of your favorite players that are signed, go check those out. They also have the NFL shop, which we actually got a chance to go over to. NFL shop, go check that out. Not as big as the Super Bowl experience, but super cool in there. They got merch for all your teams. They also have Super Bowl branded stuff as we are currently wearing. A little on the pricier end, but definitely keepsake items to take home. And plus, if you're flying and you don't have the room, they have option to ship it out for you through FedEx, which is pretty cool. I don't know the cost on that. You guys will have to find that out yourself. But yeah, so definitely go check that out. But it's crazy to think of how much is all going on at the moment here at New Orleans Super Bowl. You've got stuff everywhere. Oh, you know what? We didn't talk about the media party. That's something we could also touch on.
Real quick, according to Build Fix Go in the chat, also known as my father, that was Marcus Allen, if you were wondering who was on that for like 15 seconds back there.
Yes, that's pretty cool.
Let's talk about the media party. Talk about the media party.
So we'll close out here with the media party, and then we'll kind of give you a sneak peek of what we've got going the next few days here at Radio Row. But yes, media party. Let's dive into that. So that was at Mardi Gras World, which is literally right next to the convention center here. That was awesome. That is honestly like 4 times as big as what we're currently in. Super cool. That is where they build the floats, which is super cool. We got to see some AI system that was like building the floats. I don't know what material. Styrofoam, I think, which is kind of crazy. Like, how does that work? You think that would blow away during Mardi Gras when they have those going down the street? But yeah, so they had a bunch of past floats in there, hundreds of them, I would say. But yeah, so there were like 6 or 7 separate sections at the media party. Walking in, there was the main section where they had a DJ. They had a bunch of NFL staff just throwing out New Orleans beads and whatnot for you to wear. Over 30 restaurants were actually there providing different kinds of food, beignets, shrimp, oysters that almost made him puke because he doesn't like them, cheesecake, really good. Baked Alaska, which is kind of like a cake dessert tree with hot fudge. Insanely good. If you've not tried that before, try it. Chicken tenders, the classic, but they were different. This guy's definitely scared of alligators. You could hold an alligator there. He was tweaking. He did not get near it. None of us actually got near it. Snake as well. I'm definitely scared of snakes. So also that is something I wouldn't want to do. But yeah, those are all the food varieties. Huge dance floor with a good jazz band. Blinking on the name. You can dive into that if you want. But that was cool. Outside, also some music. Great view of the bridge, the river, the bridge, right? The bridge. The bridge was super cool though. I don't know, some river, but yeah, but that was pretty cool. You could just hang out there, meet people, other people in the media. I'm sorry, I'm getting tired.
I appreciate your authenticity. Yeah, it was pretty cool. There's probably I can't ask you right. You're just so laughing. Probably 5,000 people there. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, something like that.
But it was pretty crazy. Like everywhere you walked, there's just like somebody dressed to the nines, and we were not. It was also like one of the problems that we ran into. And stuff like this. But yeah, it was pretty cool atmosphere. They had 3 separate live bands going, which the cost of that own is insane. When we were there, we talked about like how much that would cost to put on. I think somebody said like something under $1 million, and I was like, there's no way. I think probably $5 million to put something like that on. It was insane. I've been saying when I like call people and talk about it, I was like, it's one of the few things that just absolutely blew my expectations out of the water. Like it's the media parties you see like in movies. Yeah, it's especially
talking about the yes, that, but also the light up tables outside.
Yeah, like it's stuff that you only see in movie parties, and it was like, wow, this is actually like a real thing. But yeah, I didn't do as much networking there as I would have liked to. But it was cool. I mean, it was cool. I don't know what else to say about it now. The alligator was the scariest part for sure.
Would you like to expand on the oyster you ate?
The oyster I ate, yes. I grabbed an oyster because I'm all about trying new things now. It's 2025, so we're trying new stuff, and I saw an oyster. I was like, no, I've never had an oyster before, and I went in fully expecting to be terrible, and it was. I went to bite down because I was like, I think I have to bite down this and slurp it up, and it didn't work the first time. So I was just walking around and just looking on my phone to see how to eat an oyster. And it was like, no, you're just supposed to slurp it. I was like, oh. So I did it, and then it tasted bad. So we got cheesecake, which was really good. And then they had like Shirley Temples that you could order. Did you get a Shirley Temple?
No, I got water.
Big party guy right here. It was basically just starry and cherry sauce. So I could make it in our school's cafeteria. But it was actually still pretty good and hit the spot after a lot of food and no drinks. But to just kind of wrap up these last 10 minutes, why don't you go ahead and get us started by talking about what your favorite memory you think is from the trip so far that you haven't talked about at least?
Yeah, I think we could also talk about what we're looking forward to as well, and just kind of giving them. Yeah, but favorite moment? Oh man, this is a very difficult question because I feel like everything we've done has just been so exciting and so fun. But I think favorite moment for me, honestly, has got to be opening night. Quarterbacks, just that experience of all those people around you, all these major medias, but we have the spot up front. Like I had Jimmy Kimmel to my right, we had NFL UK, CBS, like you name it, and here we are as a faith-based, dead center. Like it was just an awesome experience to be able to ask Jalen Hurts those faith-based questions, and for those to just get amplified, nationwide on NFL Network, and it's just cool that we can make a difference in not just the players' lives, but also the fans and, whoever is watching live on TV. So for me, that was just super impactful and exciting.
Yeah, it's not like a moment or a memory. So I guess I'll go to that after this, but I've really enjoyed seeing my own confidence grow in media space throughout this, especially when it comes to getting off an interview question, because that's a little tough in this environment. Because this is straight to the top, man. There's like 20 people all just yelling this guy's name, and you have to be assertive and just yell his name. Second he lost eye contact, you have to have that question going. And that was a little tough the first few days, but today especially, I felt like I kind of got it down, and could go back and do it again any day, any time. And that's been cool to see grow, and to actually see that I am taking something away from this experience and learning skills. But favorite moment or memory was actually when I was editing the Patrick Mahomes footage out on the back porch next to our hot tub that doesn't work, which is a whole other story in itself. But I was editing the footage, and I was just chilling by the pool at like 1 a.m. And I think this is before you came out there, so it's just me. And Mahomes was talking about how Acts, I think it was Acts 27 that he has tattooed on him, and somebody asked him about it. And he's talking about how he used to be half in on the faith and half out, but now he's all in. And then he also like went on to talk about how he's fathers his children and stuff, and it was just cool to see like, man, this is such just a normal guy and just another brother in Christ. Yep. Like everybody that you see who's like part of the faith, like no matter how famous they are, in God's eyes, you're all equally loved and all the same. And that was a really cool recognition to come to. Like some of these players, yeah, I'm gonna see them in heaven when I'm there, and like that's just like we all are gonna end up in the same place. And I thought that was a really cool recognition moment.
Yeah, just going off of that, it's sorry, I'm getting tired. But yes, the hot tub is sad. Yeah. We tried fixing it, but yeah, definitely like not just this experience is bonding with players and other media, also just for us as a group. It's been an amazing time to get to know Steven and Stainbrook and Aiden and everyone else that's on our team. It's just been super fun being able to hang out with them and edit, and also learn new things on how, certain things in Premiere to use, or how to run a broadcast, or audio, or how to set up a tripod in 2 seconds when you're already late but need it done, those kind of things. So it's just super fun experience to be able to, live with them as well in the Airbnb, right? We're all closely surrounded. It's just a good bonding time to also for us to help grow in our relationship with Christ, being with other Christ followers. So yeah, for me, that's been another, important aspect of this whole Super Bowl experience in general. So yeah, we got about 5 minutes left here. I don't know if we have any more content to roll through, but yeah, looking forward here to the next few days. I'm honestly most excited for the Super Bowl breakfast tomorrow morning, as Darren was talking about earlier. That's going to be super exciting. Just hear from Tony Dungy and maybe possibly hear from some other players that have had a major impact on the NFL and, their relationship with Christ. So that's just going to be a super fun thing. Being surrounded by other Christian media and being able to share, that similar experience with them. So personally, that's the top thing I'm looking forward to. Obviously, Radio Row will be live tomorrow as well. So that's going to be a lot of fun interviewing more people. Yeah. How about you, Aiden?
Yeah. Well, what is tomorrow other than Radio Row and the breakfast? Like, what else do we have?
I don't think we have the breakfast tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Saturday.
Yeah, okay.
I'm looking forward to sleep tonight. That's something. I don't know what we're doing for dinner, but I'm looking forward to food. all good things. But for this specifically, I actually have had a lot of fun bringing people back here and interviewing, and we're going to continue that tomorrow. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, and then tune in next time, which is tomorrow at same time.
3 to 5 Central Time, 2 to 4 Mountain Time.
So yeah, that's all we have, and thank you for tuning in.